Now I want to bring in ABC News contributor and former U.S. ambassador to NATO, retired Lieutenant General Doug Lute. Lieutenant General, first, thank you for your time. But I want to get your take. I mean, how big of an escalation is this Iran attack on the U.S. airbase in Qatar?
Well, it's a big deal, first of all, because Al Udeid Air Base is the crown jewel of American military posture in the Middle East. It's not only the single largest base, it's the center of our air power, which is so important across the region. So any attack on Al Udeid is a big deal. But it's also clear, as your reporting indicates, that apparently the Iranian regime intended to limit this in two significant ways. First of all, the number of missiles launched. If the reports are correct that there were 14 launched, they probably have 1,400 that could have been launched. So the quantity, the size of the attack, the scale of the attack was limited. And then also this notion of reports that advance notice was given to Qatar that the attack was forthcoming. This is important as well because it allowed for minimizing the risk to damage to facilities, damage to aircraft on the runways at Al Udeid, and most important, damage to either Qatari citizens or U.S. military personnel on the base. So there was an obvious attempt here to signal to the Iranian people that the regime was doing something in response to the U.S. attacks, but also at the same time limiting that attack, that counterattack in a way that minimized the chances of escalation.
We've heard from Republican lawmakers say that this was an opportunity for Iran's leadership to save face. But I am curious, sir. President Trump has posted on social media that the response was very weak, and he also says that now it's time for peace. So do you suspect that this will be all that we see from Iran in terms of attacks on U.S. assets?
Well, I think it's clear that the Trump administration would like to transition from this kinetic activity, strike and counterstrike, back to the diplomatic table. Because at the end of the day, the scale of the Iranian nuclear program will actually only be constrained effectively with confidence by way of diplomacy rather than by way of military strikes. So I think they'd like to get back to the table, and therefore this may be an opening to re-begin negotiations and bring the diplomats into the scene.
Well, we talk about, the process of restarting these diplomatic negotiations, but both China and Russia have condemned the U.S. strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities. Iran's foreign minister meeting with both countries today. Is there a concern here that Moscow and Beijing could enter this conflict, or at least put their thumb on the scales here?
Well, look, Russia and China complaining about U.S. attacks on Iranian nuclear sites has got to be the greatest of all irony, the irony of the year, perhaps, right? After all, while these attacks have been going on in the Middle East, Russia has increased the tempo of its attacks on Ukraine. And the Ukrainian casualties over the last couple of weeks surpass the casualties in either Israel or Iran. So it's a little ironic that Russia would cite international law and so forth. In the case of China, China's the single largest beneficiary of Iranian energy exports. Most of the Iranian energy oil goes to China. So they both have other interests going on here. And it's more than ironic that they would complain about the U.S. strikes.
Very interesting. Lieutenant General Lute, thank you so much for your time, sir.